Good morning, everyone. I am so pleased and so delighted that you've all joined me to learn more about Iceland. Intriguing Iceland. By the way, in case you haven't been aware of it, Iceland has recently been voted as number 4 destination in the world. And there are great articles in the April edition of both National Geographic Traveler as well as Travel and Leisure, so I'll give you a bit more info. I wanted to put up a contact screen in the beginning. I know that sometimes people have to drop out, so you might want to make note. My contact information is there. I'm the North America representative for Iceland Travel, which, by the way, is the largest and oldest inbound land operator in Iceland. The company itself was established in 1937. And my goal today is to give you some insight on what you should see when you go to Iceland, which clients you should send to Iceland, and when you should go. I'd like to respect how busy everyone is and try to keep the session to about 45 minutes, but I do sometimes tend to run on, and I've got some great stories. But we want to leave some room at the end for all of your questions. Here you see a map, and in case you didn't know, Iceland is right here in the red circle. You may be aware that it is now it is considered part of the European continent. And I think you found that out last year. We had a little volcano incident, and during that incident, while you may not have had clients in Iceland, I'm willing to bet you had clients in Europe who had difficulties moving around because of all the ash. Things are fine. Everything is great. In fact, in Iceland, the disruption was a grand total of 24 hours. So everything is wonderful. Iceland Travel is our partner, and this is showing you their route structure, that you can see that we do have several departures gateways in Europe. We have all of the gateways in the United States. There is a brand new one that actually isn't shown on here as yet, and that's because the service starts on May 17th. We're going to be operating 4 times a week, nonstop, out of Dulles Airport. Also, keep in mind that from the East Coast, the flights are about 4 to 5 hours in duration. West Coast flights take about 7.5 to 8. And there are some seasonal gateways, believe it or not, out of Orlando, the Sanford Airport. We also have Minneapolis and Toronto. Okay, here is a map of Iceland. For those of you who like little trivia, I'm going to add that Iceland itself, it's fairly small. When you look at it, of course, it looks huge, but it is actually the size of Kentucky. So that should help you a little bit with size-wise. What I want to show you, Reykjavik is over here, right over here. Of course, we have a lot of funny spellings, funny names, difficult to pronounce. So Reykjavik is one of the easier ones to say, not necessarily to spell. And I do want to show you, because of the curiosity about the volcano, this is the approximate area of where the volcano erupted. It's a very rural area. There was very little damage. And actually on day 2, Iceland Travel started to run tours. So it didn't really disrupt much of anything in Iceland. Okay, why to go to Iceland? Well, because truly there is no place else like it. The astounding nature that is there is just breathtaking. Everyone speaks English. And another interesting little tidbit here is 99% of the population of Iceland is college educated. There is virtually no crime. It's a safe destination for you to consider. I know these days it's a little challenging to find somewhere to send your clients. Consider Iceland. The people are definitely friendly. They are genuine. They are very down to earth. They want to share their culture with you. It's the land of the midnight sun and the northern lights. The midnight sun is what occurs in the summer. Northern lights is what's going to happen in the wintertime. Clean energy, hydroelectric, and geothermal energy. Here you see the natural phenomenon known as the northern lights. You can only see this in winter. The reason is because there's only about 3 hours of daylight. The reverse is true in the summertime. I just want to show you some other images of the beautiful, spectacular northern lights. It's quite a treat. Unfortunately, because it's a natural phenomenon, it can't be guaranteed that your clients are going to see it, but there's another reason to return and go back. Here are some winter shots. I thought since the weather is warming up a bit for us, you might want to see some snow shots. Here are wonderful 4x4 vehicles. We've got great Jeep tours, and this is a beautiful shot of a cozy night. Let me back up one more. As I say, we've got wonderful programs that go across the glaciers with the Jeeps on guided tours. Snowmobiling. How many of you ever snowmobiled on a glacier? That's something very unique. The destination is great for clients who want activity. Maybe not, we're not talking hardcore adrenaline junkies, but definitely something where they're going to be a little bit participatory as opposed to a passive type of destination. You can see this incredible Mother Nature and what she has to offer. In Iceland, we have over 10,000 waterfalls. And you can see you can get really up close and personal. We don't have any guardrails. If you want to do it that way, you can also do the ATVs. How about horseback? Some of you may be aware that the Icelandic horse is a phenomenal animal, and it's endemic to the destination. The thing that makes them a little bit different is they are short, they're stocky, they have 5 gaits instead of 4. So when your horse goes into a gallop mode, it's more like dancing. They are so friendly, these horses, and they're very, very gentle. You can see the length of the manes on the front one. They're just gorgeous. I have a passion for them. And if you don't want the 4-legged variety, we've got the 2-legged variety. Can you believe that in Iceland, the puffins number between 8 and 10 million? So if you've got birders, I think they would like, looks like he's having lunch. Really good. So we have that. Oh, we do have the geysers. And again, these are the natural phenomenon that you see all across the country. Lava fields, of course, from some of our volcanoes. We do have craters, which are wonderful for hiking. How about the moon? This is a very interesting shot that you may not be aware that the astronauts from the United States actually go to Iceland to train because of the severity, the harsh landscape. That's what they're going to encounter in space. Okay, now we're going to go back to civilization. This is a winter shot overlooking a portion of Reykjavik, which is our capital and our only major city. The accommodations, as you can see, are wonderful. We have B&B type. We have small little inns. We also have 4- and 5-star luxury properties. So they do come in all sizes and all price points. And as I mentioned, we do have 10,000 waterfalls. We do have 15 active volcanoes, not just the one that went off. 800 mineral hot springs. With the glaciers, that number would transpose to about 7,000 square miles of glaciers. Black sand beaches, white sand beaches, and of course the world famous Blue Lagoon. So here's our geysers. That's some of the lava fields, some of our beautiful beaches. I think that's something that you don't expect to see. And this is the world famous Blue Lagoon, which is quite large. I don't know the actual size of it, but it is very, very large. And it is very famous mineral hot springs. They also produce some of the greatest cosmetics, lotions, and potions that you could want. Most people go there. It's close to the airport. By the way, the airport itself is about an hour outside of Reykjavik. So you generally visit the Blue Lagoon upon arrival or as you're leaving the country before you take your flight home. It's wonderful, soothing relief. You can get a massage. They do have a restaurant there, so you can also eat lunch. And when we look at Reykjavik, see that it is definitely next door to nature, virtually pollution-free. You know, as we were talking about places to go that are safe and wonderful, keep in mind that we do have these beautiful, charming, very Scandinavian type countries. We do have beautiful cities. Downtown Reykjavik is quite active, but it's still very clean and safe. You can go out at all hours of the day or night. Very fashionable, great walking city. Also, I wanted to mention for an idea of who to send. Terrific to send for families, for individuals, for groups. And here's something I learned just recently. There are 50, 50, there are 50 golf courses across Iceland. So when you've got clients who are looking, those golfers, they always want someplace new that they can go and golf. Here you go. There's another reason to send people to Iceland. When it comes to food, oh my gosh, what can I say to you? Talk about the freshest seafood you've ever eaten. People we know when they travel around the world, they're always concerned about, oh my gosh, what am I going to eat? I have to tell you, some of the best food I've ever had in my life has been in Iceland, Reykjavik particularly. Lamb is very, very good. They have fabulous dairy products and cheese. Fruits and vegetables are grown hydroponically in greenhouses, so they're picked absolutely when they are ripe. Just give you some images. Our restaurants are absolutely stunning, and for whether you eat in the hotel or you eat in the restaurants, you dine in. Look at that picture up at the top. Can you imagine eating out in the snow on a glacier? Absolutely spectacular. I highly recommend it. It's something that's a lot of fun to do. And then for evening entertainment, we do not have an ice hotel. People ask me that all the time, where is the ice hotel? It's in Sweden. It's not in Iceland. But we do have ice bars. Nightlife is very active in Reykjavik, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun to do. While we're on the subject of food, I wanted to mention another piece of trivia that I found that I thought was interesting. It has been documented, for those of us that like soda pop, whatever you want to call it, the best Coca-Cola in the world is in Iceland because it's bottled using the crystal pure Icelandic waters. So that's another little piece of trivia for you to know. Okay, when to visit. In all honesty, you can visit and do most of the activities year-round, but in the summer, because we have maybe 3 hours of darkness, we have the midnight sun. That's where your golfers can golf at midnight. There, of course, is whale and bird watching, which we've talked about. I've shown you the puffins. You've got the beach, you've got sightseeing, whale watching, beautiful countryside, fishing, hiking, and don't forget the waterfalls. Absolutely spectacular. Look at those flowers walking along the beach. Great. Our national holiday takes place in the summer, and that happens on June 17th. So again, if you have clients who want to get really involved with the local culture, they would want to go in the summer months. The winter, here we go. The winter, we've got those northern lights. Remember, the ones that aren't guaranteed, but what a show they put on. There, of course, because Iceland is not so heavily populated and the skies are fantastically crystal clear at night, that's when you can see them. It's good to get outside of Reykjavik, but they can be definitely seen directly from Reykjavik. Here's another great night. This is New Year's Eve. Lots of celebration. The Christmas season in Iceland is extraordinarily popular. Another cute little cultural thing that they have 13 Santa Clauses. Imagine bringing your kids to Iceland at Christmas. 13 Santa Clauses. They literally celebrate Christmas for about 1 month because each day a different Santa Claus comes, so that's 13 days in. I think it's a 2-day celebration, and then we start with the Santa Clauses leaving, so it's another 13 days. Great, wonderful time to consider going. There are lots of art and music festivals. Of course, snowmobiling on the glaciers. Where else can you do that? So we have lots of holiday celebrations, fireworks, the glaciers. It's just a tremendously natural, exciting place to visit. Our outdoor concerts, we can offer those as well. Just getting, here we go to the next one. Okay, a little bit about Iceland travel. As I mentioned earlier, Iceland Travel is an inbound land operator. Our partner is Iceland Air. So you would use Iceland Air obviously for your flights, but Iceland Travel comes in when it's time to do the land portion. They work with individuals. They work with groups. They are part, as we mentioned, of the Iceland Air family. They are extremely proficient. They're very, very responsive. While they do not have an 800 phone number, if you send an email to sales@icelandtravel.is and ask to have someone call you, we can make sure that someone physically will call you, walk you through the options. The website is very, very comprehensive. There's tremendous information available, but I know sometimes selling a destination that you don't know, you really want to talk to someone about it. So you can see that we do have the luxury travel tab. We've got About Iceland, lots and lots of information. And again, we do have the FITs, the groups, the incentives, the meetings. Up here is a very important tab, and that's Agent Login. When you go there and you register, that is going to give you access to about 10,000 visual images, our photo gallery, that you can make your own presentation, your own documents if you wanted to send things to your clients. So what we can offer you would be programs for individuals, the FIT travelers. We do groups, luxury travel, meetings, incentives, as you can see. I wanted to mention that on the individual travelers, we do have self-drive programs. This question comes up a lot. Can you rent a car and drive around Iceland? Absolutely, you can. They have all types of vehicles. They do have off-road vehicles as well. The only thing I caution you about when you're doing a self-drive is that, generally speaking, you don't know what you're looking at. So it's kind of nice to maybe take a 3, 4, 5-day escorted program and then do the fly drive where you go back and visit things that you would like to do. We did have a question about whether you can drive through the center of Iceland, where usually it's called the Ring Road, and that's the road that goes, of course, around the perimeter. But yes, in the summer season, you can drive through and into the center of the island. City breaks. Iceland Air, of course, goes to Europe. They offer your clients free stopovers in Reykjavik on their way to or from Europe. That's where the city breaks come into play. The scheduled tours with fixed departure dates, we've got quite a selection and variety year-round, and you'll be happy to know that we pay 15% commission on those programs. If we're going to do a custom program for you, we will offer net pricing. All of the guides speak English. This is important. I know I do have some callers today that are from other parts of the world. We do also have guides that speak French, Spanish, German, many other languages, so we can certainly assist your clients and make them comfortable. There are day tours. There are activities, as you can see, the coach tours, the Jeep tours. This is going to give you just a very brief picture of some of the lengths of stay. The 5-day is a very, very popular time frame that most people like, and it does go out into the countryside. On these escorted programs, you will not be staying the entire time in Reykjavik. You'll be traveling through the countryside and staying at some wonderful country hotels, eating in local restaurants, and having fabulous food, and of course your tours. Luxury and honeymoon. I get this question a lot. Is it possible? Are there things there that are considered luxury? I want to say my answer used to be only in Reykjavik, but I was in Iceland in November and had the opportunity to stay at some fabulous, I mean fabulous, upscale properties out in the countryside. So absolutely the answer is yes, we do have luxury products. We do also arrange honeymoon programs for your clients. Look at some of these luxury activities that they've created. Can you imagine, I mean, really, riding those Viking horses, the Icelandic horses over those lava fields, flight skiing, helicopter flights over the volcanoes and the glaciers, the northern lights and lobster, midnight golf under the midnight sun, diving and snorkeling. That was another thing I learned on my last trip, is there is excellent diving and snorkeling to be done in the volcanic fissure. Shopping, Wow, what can I say? The clothing is so trendy and fabulous. Of course, the woolen clothing made from wool, because there are so many sheep in Iceland, the wool products are just fabulous. Then when it comes to spa, we go back to the Blue Lagoon situation, but there are over 800 natural hot springs. The Blue Lagoon just happens to be the one that's most famous. So for people who are into spa getaways, into wellness, we can also put together something wonderful for that type of client. Look here, this is not the Blue Lagoon. This is just out in the countryside. This is what the local people do. There are mineral hot springs all over the country. Lots and lots of fun activities. Here again, I wanted to just show you, if you wanted to make a note of these are our wonderful, useful links with the web addresses, and a mention about our wonderful friends at the Iceland Tourist Board. In the States, the office is located in New York. We have a tremendous relationship with them, and I need to tell you they have got some of the best collateral materials you could want. Every year they put out this wonderful magazine, Iceland. It's Pure Natural Unspoiled Iceland. We do have the new 2011 edition, and also they have DVDs. These are available to you free of charge. We just need you to contact us at visiticeland.com, and they'll be able to do that for you as well. Of course, we have Iceland Travel website, Iceland Air, the Tourist Board, information about Visit Reykjavik, and the weather. I haven't really talked about the weather. Let me do that for a moment or two, because everybody seems to be concerned about how cold is it in Iceland. And the truth is that it's really very moderate. If you've been to Scandinavia, you realize that it's a very mild, temperate climate. Sure, they get their really cold snaps and they get their warm days, but overall it's a very mild, gentle climate. That's why these activities can be done year-round. I was there in November. I happened to have hit a bitterly cold spot, but having said that, I was still outside doing all these activities and, of course, playing with the Icelandic horses, so it doesn't stop you from anything. Temperature-wise, I'm going to have to do it in Fahrenheit, but we're probably looking in the 30s with, again, occasional dips into the 20s and below. It doesn't last for long. In the summer season, June, July, and August, which is actually very mild, you're looking at a high maybe in the low 70s. So it's a very comfortable temperate climate, nothing much, I don't think you have to worry about it. You don't need to be overly dressed, dress in layers, and casual attire certainly would be appropriate. Another question that I have gotten a lot from everyone out there is agent rates, and what can we do for agents who want to visit and explore Iceland. Iceland Air does have fantastic agent rates. You can go on their website and register and have access. It is password protected, and they will offer great rates. However, every February, we do something called the Mid-Atlantic Summit, and that is when we bring about 500 travel agents to Iceland for 3 nights. It's air, meals, excursions, and now that you've signed up for the webinar today, you'll definitely be on our list. And yes, it is Iceland in February. So keep that in mind. It could be a great time for you to come. It's really, as I say, not terribly severe. The other thing that I did want to mention to you is that I am available. My contact is here. I'm in the United States. I'm on the East Coast. I am the marketing representative for Iceland Travel, and I go out and about across the country, do sales calls, visiting travel agencies and presentations, and I would love to meet you in person. Many of you I know, but many more I do not. And I do indeed have some upcoming sales calls, sales trips, one of which is to Southern California, one to New Jersey. Please let me know, contact me if you'd like me to come out to your office to meet with you in person and to talk to your agents. Actually, I've spoken very quickly. I was trying to keep it short, but not this short. So, Lee, if you do have some questions, I'll be more than happy to address those now.
Excuse me. Thanks, Judy. We do have some good questions that have come in.
Uh-oh. Here's the fun part.
No, they're great questions. Everybody's really interested, and
Good.
It's been a great audience today.
Good.
Bobby's interest was piqued when you talked about golfing, and the question is, what would be the best time of the year to send someone for golfing?
Okay. We're going to have to limit that. That's one activity that I'm going to say is not year-round. But I would say any time from mid or late April all the way through until mid-September would be good, that you'd be assured of pretty mild temperatures and not going to have any snow to contend with.
Okay, good. Let's talk about costs. Several questions here about what it costs, what the relative costs are in Iceland, and what one could expect to spend. There's a perception that Iceland is a costly destination, and so maybe you could talk a little bit about what one should budget.
Okay. I would say to you that Iceland is not a budget destination. Long time ago, Iceland was really inexpensive to go to. That's changed over the years, as most things have. And I found that, in honesty, the hotel costs were not outrageous. The food costs are high. And the only way that I can say that is if you are on the East Coast or West Coast of the United States, it would be the equivalent of eating out at nice restaurants. For lunch, generally, I was having soup and salad, wonderful soups, by the way, soup and salad, and there is a local hot dog, a local dish called pulsar, and that is like a sausage hot dog type dish. That would be running about $25 for lunch. Dinner in a nice restaurant, not necessarily the top of the line, but in a nice restaurant with a glass of wine, is going to cost you approximately, I'd say, $40 to $50 per person. It can certainly cost you more. Like everything, it depends on what type of restaurant you want to eat at. But that would be where you're going to spend most of your money, I think, is on the food.
Okay. What currency is used in Iceland, Judy?
It is called the Icelandic krona, K-R-O-N-A. And at the moment, $1 US is approximately 110 krona.
Okay. Very good. Diane has a client who has a 23-hour stopover in Iceland. They're traveling from London to Seattle, and so they have a stopover. They've already done the Blue Lagoon. What could one do with 23 hours?
Well, 23 hours, I guess they're going to want to sleep a little bit, so they may not have all that much time. But what I would suggest, quite honestly, is taking some of our city break, the day trips outside of Reykjavik, where you're going to be going to some of the geysers, the waterfalls, the glaciers, unless, again, you have a specific interest and maybe want to go whale watching, depending on, when you're in Iceland, the time of year that this would take place, or perhaps horseback riding. That would be some things that you can do. There are incredible museums in Iceland, both in Reykjavik and scattered around the countryside. In fact, on this last trip, I went to a very unique, well, actually there were two that I thought were really, really different. One was a puppet museum. It was absolutely charming, and it was one of those things where I thought, oh gosh, what is this going to be about? It was wonderful. And then in another little village, there is a water museum. Now, I know this sounds really bizarre, but it is one of the most unique displays and exhibits where there are plexiglass cylinders they go from the floor to the ceiling. There are, I don't know, maybe there are 30 of them, and in each one is water from a different glacier. And you can't believe the difference in the colors. I mean, it was just something very different. Of course, they do have your standard art museums. There is a brand new, phenomenal Viking museum. And the story I tell about the Viking Museum is the first time I went to the Viking Museum because, again, it's not something that we study greatly or know much about. And I had a preconceived idea, and I thought, oh, gosh, a Viking Museum. Well, I'm not going to be in here very long. I'm going to see if they have a coffee shop. I was the very last person out of the Viking Museum. It was fascinating. It's like going to the Smithsonian Institute where you're seeing artifacts and how the Vikings lived. They had a very tough life. It's fantastic. So there's tons of things that you can do. Maybe 23 hours isn't enough.
Well, you know, and it's interesting because it sounds like maybe the 23-hour thing. There's something to this. There's a lot of travel agents on who have clients who are just coming into Iceland for the day on cruise ships, and so is Iceland travel available to help with day tours if something needed to be put together?
That was exactly where I was heading next. Is there are so many of the major cruise lines now that have Reykjavik as a port of call. And in fact, many of the cruise lines have contracted with Iceland Travel to do the ship shore excursions, but we also will be more than happy to arrange private custom shore excursions. So that's another area where, depending on the client's time and interest, we can certainly arrange something very interesting for them.
Okay. Okay, well, lots of interest about the hot springs, so let me ask you, I'm going to combine a couple questions. I bet you can guess what the questions are.
I'm thinking I can. Go ahead.
So, first one is about whether clothing is required or optional, and you know, if it's optional, is that accepted? Do people feel comfortable if they're bathing with no clothes on? And also, what time of year do most folks visit the hot springs?
Okay. Mineral hot springs is something that is not just for the tourists in Iceland. It is what all of the locals do. I'll talk about the Blue Lagoon most specifically because that's really where the majority of tourists are going to go. It is definitely clothing. You do wear bathing attire, so you will have a bathing suit on. When you arrive, you're fully clothed, obviously. Some people may want to wear their bathing suit underneath. It's fine if you want to do that, but there are changing facilities. They are not, they are separate. The women and the men have separate changing areas. You pay your fee to get in. You're given a towel. You go to the locker area. There are lockers so that you can change your clothes and put your personal things in the locker. Then you take your towel and you walk outside in your bathing suit and go right into the Blue Lagoon. You go right into the water. What they have done, because I might say that the changing areas are fairly open, meaning you don't have a little cubicle to change. You are out in the open in a big dressing area where everybody else is doing the same thing. But for some of us that's a little uncomfortable, we want more privacy. The Blue Lagoon has now made separate private that you can rent for by the hour or a few hours. Changing facility, it's beautiful. You have your own little room and you have changing facilities. There's a little sofa sitting area in there. You can have a drink in there and then change your clothes. There's a shower, and then you have the privacy of going out into the Blue Lagoon. And then again, that same facility that you've rented is available to you when you're done and want to change back into your clothes. Oh, and we can help you with that too. We can certainly make those arrangements to reserve one of those for you.
Oh, good. And I was reading questions. I was only partially listening. Did you indicate what times of the year are?
Oh, they are all year round. Okay. That's part of the phenomenon. If you can imagine going out in a hot tub in the winter in your yard or wherever, and you know the snow is falling and it's wonderful, it's freezing cold, but you're in the hot tub. That's what the Blue Lagoon is like, only it's enormous. And the bottom of the minerals that are at the bottom of the Blue Lagoon, it's silica. And when you're walking, you are barefoot, and the water is quite warm. It's not hot. It's warm. And when you're walking, it feels as though you're walking on velvet. It squishes between your toes. It's not gritty like sand. It's just glorious to walk on it. And around the perimeter of the Blue Lagoon, there are boxes, big wooden boxes. And you'll see people go over to these boxes. And inside of the boxes is more of this white silica. It's sort of like a cream. It's almost, what's in the boxes is almost like a salt. And everybody, they put it on their face. They put it on their upper arms. And you leave it on for about 15 minutes. And then you dunk down in the water and wipe it off. And it's an exfoliant. And your skin is absolutely like a baby when you come out. And, of course, they do sell all these wonderful products inside at the store.
Oh, it sounds perfect.
Oh, it's great.
What about birding? Is Iceland an area where birders would enjoy visiting?
Absolutely. Along with, I mean, if 8 to 10 million puffins aren't enough, there are approximately 70 to 80 other species of birds. Absolutely wonderful for the nature lover. They would absolutely love it. Of course, you're going to see more of these species in the warmer months than you would in the winter.
Okay. And Pat is interested in a little bit more detail about the restaurants and nightlife. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, I can. Well, I can talk about the restaurants. I'll be honest with you, I personally have not been to any of the night spots, but I know that they are very active. Again, with the long winter nights, most of the bars are open all night long, and they're open until about 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's an active part of the culture. As far as the restaurants, I have to say I was blown away not only by the decor, which is absolutely first rate, very, very sophisticated, but again the variety of cuisines that I have found, and just the variety of food. Because the fruits and vegetables are grown hydroponically in greenhouses, they are not cultivated, they're not cultivated a week in advance and shipped across the country in a truck. They are picked maybe the day before they're used. The food, the flavor, you know what you're eating. It is vibrant. The seafood, it doesn't get any fresher. And lamb, because of all the sheep that are in the countryside, the lamb there is also absolutely wonderfully tender and absolutely as fresh as it can be. Terrific food, absolutely terrific food.
Well, it sounds just,
it is
golly, between nurturing the outside of your body with the mineral springs and feeding your soul with the food. My goodness.
It really is, you know, the title Intriguing Iceland, I think it is intriguing. I think a lot of people, when I do my sales calls, a lot of the agents say to me, oh, I've always wanted to go to Iceland. It just hasn't happened. Or how many people, you know, I had clients wanting to go to Iceland. I didn't know where to begin. I didn't know what to tell them about it. Like everything, when you don't know a destination, there's a little bit of an intimidation factor. That's why we're here. Please use us, use me, use the tourist board, use Iceland Travel. We want you to experience this destination. It is really, really special.
You know, Nancy is on with us, and she traveled to Iceland recently, and she was just so impressed with the quality and service, particularly with Iceland Air and people on the ground, and I wanted to pass those compliments along. She also commented that she was very impressed with the music, and she felt like it was an up-and-coming market for musicians, and she wondered if it's true that one of the largest music festivals in the world happens there.
She's absolutely correct. The music scene is very, very big and getting bigger all the time in Iceland. And again, the concerts are held mostly in the summer, but there are concerts held year-round. But the big outdoor concerts, they would be in the summer season, usually in June and July.
Okay.
And thank you for those wonderful compliments, I must say. They are well-deserved, and they are true. The people, the service that you get, it's just a different culture. It's wonderful to go somewhere where everyone is so relaxed because there isn't, there's no crime, there's no threat there of anything. You can enjoy your life. And that's one thing that the Icelandic people do, is they enjoy their life. They're very outdoorsy people. They're very active. That's what, when you look at them and everybody says, oh, they're so beautiful and they have such great complexions, it's because there is no pollution in Iceland. The air, the water, it's as fresh and as pure as you can imagine. You just have to go. That's all there is to it. You just have to go.
Kathleen is here with us. She has a very large golfing client base. And so are there resources at IcelandTravel.com where she can find a listing of the golf courses? She's wondering if tee times can be reserved in advance. She's particularly interested in a midnight sun golfing package. Right. So are there resources on the website that would help her with this?
There's some information on the website. It's not as explicit. We're in the process of enlarging that. As I say, this is not that it's new to Iceland, but it's new as far as a reason for people to go to Iceland. So we're in the process of creating more packages, but we can certainly get you the information about the specific courses. We can arrange transportation. We can certainly reserve tea times. And it's another great way to put together a group. You know, think about a golfing group. We can take the women to the spa and the Mineral Hot Springs and Blue Lagoon. The guys can go golfing, or whoever wants to go where. But absolutely, it's a wonderful group destination. Very good for special interest groups. Just one other quick little story. I don't know if this particular agent is online or not, but there was an agent that I visited in Connecticut. He was a gentleman, owner of an agency, and we just started chatting and talking, and he said to me, you know, I'm having a little difficulty with my son. He's, you know, a teenager, and, you know, it's so difficult because I'm good for nothing. I don't know anything. You know how it is. And I said, yeah. And he said, do you think I should take him to Iceland? I need to tell you that the next time I went back to this agency, he held the door open for me, and he said, I don't know how to explain to you, but it changed my relationship with my son. He is still talking about it. None of his buddies had been to Iceland. I was turned into the greatest father in the world. It is a great destination for families, and I say very specifically with teenage boys. Girls are a little bit easier to please, but it's kind of difficult with guys. But when you think about those super jeeps, they're going across the lava fields, the fjords. You're real high up in this monster truck thing, and then you're going to go snowmobiling on the glacier. Then you're going to go horseback riding on an Icelandic horse. It is a great destination for families, and I do say specifically with teenage boys because they're a little harder to keep interested.
Oh, what a great story. That actually made the hair stand up on my arm.
It was wonderful. The problem is I've got too many of those stories, and I don't have the time to tell them all.
Well, let me ask you this. Are the museums open in the evening, do you know?
Most of them are not. It's pretty much a daytime situation with the museums.
Okay.
But again, if you put together a special interest group, we can certainly try to make some arrangements for you.
Okay. Susie's wondering about folks that might require gluten-free diet. Do you know if that can be accommodated easily in Iceland?
I know that it can. Again, when we go back to the culinary scene in Iceland, it is far more sophisticated than you would think or than you would believe. And absolutely, they can generally accommodate just about any type of dietary restriction. I would not see that as an issue.
All right. And typical souvenir, if you were to say, when you come home from Iceland, the one thing you want to make sure you bring home with you is fill in the blank.
This is a tough question. Because, again, at the end of the trip, I was in that situation saying, what am I going to bring home? And I may not be the typical person, but again, I'm going to go back to the Blue Lagoon because the products there are world famous. They are better than anything you can buy in the United States. They're not inexpensive, but they are unisex. They have absolute incredible products for both men and women. If you live in a climate where you do have a winter season, woolen items, the gloves, the hats, the scarves, the sweaters, definitely something to take home.
Okay, good. Bobby has a group coming in this summer, and they've chosen the Golden Circle Tour.
Okay.
And she's wondering if they've made the right decision. Is that the most worthwhile thing to do if you only have one day?
It's tough to answer, did they make the right decision? And of course, there are so many different factors that come into play. I think it is an excellent decision, and I would stick with it unless for some reason you've seen something or heard something today that you think your clients might enjoy a little bit more, and then we can investigate and see what we can offer that would fulfill that need.
Okay. Oh, here's a fun question from Matthew. It's about Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
He says, is all the Coca-Cola in Iceland bottled in Iceland, and where's the best place to go for Icelandic Coca-Cola?
There you go. That's what I alluded to a little bit earlier. It tastes different. It tastes good different, not bad different. It tastes good different because, again, the water that they use in the bottling plant is local Icelandic pure water. And actually, that's what's served all over Iceland, so not any one specific place.
Okay. Judy, what about gratuities and tips? Are those generally included in the bill, or how does it? What are the expectations for tipping in Iceland?
The expectations are minimal. It is a culture where their style of living is quite good. The costs are high, salaries are high, they are well paid. So it's not really expected. I think it is always appreciated, but it is not an expectation.
Okay. All right, let's move on to waterfalls. Where are the best waterfalls?
Every time you turn around, well, I'll tell you where they're not, and that would be in Reykjavik. But as soon as you get outside of Reykjavik, you don't have to travel very far. There are so many waterfalls, and they are all quite spectacular. I would say to see some of the larger waterfalls, you're going to have to travel probably an hour outside of Reykjavik, and then you're going to start seeing those magnificent waterfalls.
Okay. What about whale watching, Judy? Is whale watching any good in November?
Whale watching, and I knew somebody was going to ask me that question. The whale watching season, the height of the season, is April to October. Again, you know, you don't control the whales. They can come early, they can stay late, but generally speaking, the peak of the season is April to October. However, there are whale watching tours almost year-round that operate, but your chances of seeing them are better in that time frame, April to October.
Okay. All right. We can transition from Coca-Cola to vodka. Is it true that they make their own vodka, or are there some really great wines or spirits?
Okay, now we're getting into an area where I hate to admit this, but I have no expertise. I can't give you a really good answer other than the people that I travel with seem to be enjoying the local wine a great deal, but I can't even tell you names of wines or vintages. But if that is something that you need information, need to have, we can get it for you. Absolutely. I just need to defer to a colleague since I can't answer you specifically. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Gosh, a couple questions here about the cost of gas. Where's the best place to go to find the latest price of gas?
Oh, dear. Well, you know, we are slowly catching up with the rest of the world because we actually have about the cheapest gasoline prices. The prices up there, again, this is something that I didn't experience because I wasn't driving and didn't fill up a car. But, gosh, again, you're stumping me, and I don't have an answer for you. I know that it's high. I mean, and again, they sell it by liters. I'm going to guesstimate that while we now in the United States, we are over $4 a gallon, I would imagine they are probably double what we are, or very close to it.
Well, and I would think they can also just, I mean, Iceland Travel has a phone number that they could call.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I say, I'm sorry that I don't have all the answers, but I can get them for you. That's what's important. It's not knowing all the answers, but knowing where to find them.
Right. Judy, do you know if the Iceland Visitors Bureau has a destination specialist program?
We have talked about it, and at the moment they do not. We have talked about it, and I will say this, if we get enough interest, I think we can make it happen. I don't think the interest was there in the past. There used to be a program that was a Scandinavian specialist, and I don't even think that still exists. I may be wrong, but I don't believe that still exists. But I will say, if indeed some of our callers today are interested, I would love to see it happen. I would really like it. So if you are interested, let's contact the tourist office and make sure they're aware of your interest.
Okay. What about ski resorts, Judy? Any ski resorts in Iceland?
There is definitely skiing, but it's not ski resort as one would think of as in Colorado or places like that here. It's a little bit more rustic. They do exist. It is more of a downhill skiing type situation. Of course, there is also cross-country skiing, and that's generally more up in the northern part of the country.
Okay. Hey, Judy, you mentioned that you could rent a private cubicle.
Yeah, at the Blue Lagoon.
Do you remember how much those cost?
I'm going to say it's somewhere in the vicinity of about $125, and I think that gives you about 3 hours.
Okay. And regarding hotels and properties,
Yeah.
What would you consider to be the 5-star hotels and properties? Are there?
I was so afraid of this question.
Yeah.
Only because I don't want to insult or offend anyone. I have my favorites, as we all do. There are great properties in downtown Reykjavik. I am very, very partial to the Borg. It's B as in boy, B-O-R-G. I love the Hotel 101. I mean, there are some small ones that are absolutely fantastically wonderful. I just tend, the thing about the Borg Hotel, which I know a lot of people have heard of, it is like a step back in time in the sense that it's ultra modern, but it's Art Deco, and it's like old Hollywood style. It's really, really great, and I have to say, the restaurant in the Borg Hotel, absolutely the best, top of the line, top of the line. So I do tend to go in that direction with the Borg and the 101.
Well, that's terrific, because there were questions about restaurant recommendations too, right. So that's great.
The Nordica, which is now part of the Hilton family, is another excellent property. The difference with the Nordica, again, I stay at the Nordica myself when I go. It is not in Reykjavik. It is not downtown. It is about a 10-minute walk from Reykjavik. Personally, I like it because it's not downtown and I can walk downtown. Remember, safe, you can walk any hour of the day or night. There are local buses also, and of course there are taxis that you can take. But I like the Nordica very much. It's very much like IKEA. I call it IKEA land. It's very Danish modern. Beautiful, beautiful floor-to-ceiling windows, and you look out and can see the glaciers. Spectacular views. You don't get that in downtown Reykjavik.
Yeah. I think just going to ask you a couple more questions here,
sure.
And we'll wrap it up. We're almost at the end of our hour. It's been such a great conversation. Yeah. There's a question here about farm stays, whether those are possible, and we have one guest with us here today who has a knitting group she's thinking about sending there.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to address, address the knitting group first by saying absolutely excellent, wonderful destination for that. I mean, there are more sheep in Iceland than there are people, and wool and knitting, and there are some, they have these wonderful places that you can go where they're designers, and it's like a cooperative type of a thing, and they would absolutely be overjoyed to share with you and show you the different styles and the different type of wool and how it's made, how it's colored, and set up a whole program. I think that would be great. The farm stays, I am not personally aware of any that I can recommend. I don't know if this is something that they're really doing, because there are small inns and hotels in the countryside. But if the question is, can you stay on a farm with local Icelanders, I would have to find out about that. I do not know.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, we've got some other questions here I'm going to send along to you for comment. I just want to tell you that there are so many folks on today who've had such a wonderfully positive experience with their own travel to Iceland. We have Linda here with us today and Hetty, both who have traveled to Iceland, and they are just going on about how incredible it was, that even though it was expensive, it was fabulous because it was just so unique. And
the other thing that I want to mention in regard to the cost, it is also the type of a destination that you do not have to go for 10 days or 2 weeks. You can honestly be in Iceland for 5 days and have a very comprehensive experience. So it's not like some other destinations where you have to figure on, oh my gosh, I'm going to be there for so long. 5, 6 days, you will have an incredible experience, and I have to say, I haven't met anyone who felt that it was not worth it. They loved it, and it's very different and unique in all the good ways.
Oh, that's terrific. Well, Judy, I'm going to stop with the questions now, and I'm just going to turn it back over to you for any other information you'd like to share before we close.
Okay. I think I'm hoping that my enthusiasm and my personal passion for Iceland has come across. I have it. I love it. I want to share it. And I would be more than happy, as I say, to help you out. If you want to do conference calls, if you're not comfortable enough and want to set up some type of a conference call, whether it be with Iceland Travel or myself, we can certainly do that and talk directly to your client. whatever it takes to help you make the sale for this intriguing destination. That's our job, and that's what we want to do. We love it, and we want you to love it as well. I can't thank you enough for your interest. Hopefully we can see and meet a great majority of the people that have called in today. Thank you so, so very much for your time.
And with that, we will say good day and conclude our webinar. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you all.